All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going on an investigative journey, a real deep dive into the male psyche. We're going to try and decode that hidden instruction manual. You know, the one that shapes how the man in your life thinks, feels, and ultimately acts.
So this is really the central question for our entire investigation today. To truly get the man who's standing right there in front of you, why on earth do you have to first look behind him, into the family that raised him? Well, the answer is powerful. His past is literally the key that unlocks his present behavior.
And that leads us directly to our core concept for today, the masculine blueprint. I want you to think of it like an actual architectural plan for his mind. It's this intricate framework that's woven together from everything, the traditions, the beliefs, the whole emotional climate of his childhood home. And look, this isn't about judging him or placing blame. It's all about getting that crystal clear understanding of what makes him tick.
To help us figure this all out, we've organized our investigation into 5 key case files. We're going to start with the impact of his father, then look at what happens when that role model is just gone. From there, we'll decode his emotional programming, analyze his family structure, and finally talk about how you can build a new blueprint together.
Okay, let's jump right into our first case file, his father's shadow. This is where we investigate the profound, and I mean profound, lasting influence of the main male role model in his life.
You know, for any child, a father is meant to be the fortress, that ultimate source of strength and security. But what happens when that fortress is compromised? When those walls get breached, it leaves a permanent mark on a boy's psyche.
For instance, imagine a man who grew up watching his father cheat while his mother just put up with it. He's internalizing these deeply conflicting messages about loyalty and what responsibility even means. As a kid, yeah, he probably hated his dad for it. But as an adult, he might subconsciously start to understand him. And that creates a really dangerous internal logic.
And this can lead to a really powerful subconscious expectation that gets placed right on you. If he saw his mother as this long-suffering saint who just tolerated it all, he might expect you to play that same role. He could even start to rationalize his own actions by thinking, well, I provide for the family just like my dad did, and completely separate the idea of responsibility from true fidelity.
So, that's what can happen when the fortress is compromised. Now, let's move to our next file and see what happens when that primary role model isn't just compromised, but is completely absent. We're going to look at the very unique challenges for men who were raised without a father.
So 2 major challenges tend to pop up here. First, there's the mother-son symbiosis. This is where he becomes his mother's emotional anchor, and that bond is so tight it can feel like she's practically moved into your marriage. Second, and this is just as critical, is the missing role model. He literally doesn't have the instruction manual for how to be a husband or a father.
This is so crucial to understand. When he seems to ignore your needs or just doesn't know how to show affection, it's often not because he's a bad person or that he doesn't care. It's more like he's learning a completely foreign language for the very first time. And you, his partner, you end up being his only guide.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to the emotional temperature of his childhood home. Case file 3 is all about his emotional comfort zone. You can think of it like this. His parents set his emotional thermostat when he was a kid, and he carries that exact same setting right into his adult relationships.
So first, let's consider the man who was raised in a climate of anxiety. An overprotective mother who constantly projects her distrust of the world can raise a man who becomes hypervigilant, always worried, and who might really struggle to trust even the person he's closest to, you.
Then you have the flip side. What about the guy raised by aggressive or domineering parents? Well, this often creates the exact opposite effect in the son. He can become submissive, maybe even feel guilty all the time, and he allows his parents to keep manipulating major life decisions. We're talking finances, where he lives, long after he's left home.
And finally, there's a third archetype. If his mother was emotionally distant or cold, he might come across as unemotional himself, but he might be psychologically blind to emotional nuance simply because he never learned how to see it. So when you say, "You just don't understand me," there's a good chance he genuinely might not be able to.
All right, in our 4th case file, we're going to zoom out. We're moving away from just individual psychology to look at the actual architecture of his family. Because by understanding that underlying structure, we can decode the source of a lot of modern relationship conflicts.
So broadly speaking, there are 2 models. There's the European democratic model, where roles are fluid. No male or female chores, it's just about who has time. And then there's the Eastern traditional model, where roles are super clear. The man provides for the kingdom, and the woman nurtures the nest. His expectations of you are totally shaped by whichever model he grew up.
Now here's where so much resentment comes from today.
It's this mixed model. A lot of couples live a European life by day, both partners work full-time, both provide, but then they default to an Eastern expectation by night, where the wife is somehow still expected to handle all the domestic stuff. That mismatch is an absolute recipe for conflict.
And one last, absolutely crucial point here. It doesn't matter which model you choose. Trust is impossible without financial transparency. The idea of my money is mine and his money is ours is pure poison to masculine trust. For a real partnership to thrive, finances have to be a shared resource. End of story.
So, after looking at all this evidence, what's the verdict? How do we take all this knowledge and actually move forward to create real harmony? Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our investigation, building your new blueprint. The path forward really boils down to 3 clear steps. First, you've got to gain presence of mind. That means understanding his blueprint for what it is without passing judgment. Second, you have to have the conversation, a logical, calm discussion about which family model you two are actually building. And third, you consciously work together to create a new, harmonious model that truly works for both of you.
We've basically given you the tools to see the original blueprint he was handed. So the ultimate question, the one that's going to define your future, isn't really about his past anymore. It's about what you both choose to build together, starting right now.